Welcome to my Accent is No Accident podcast. I'm your host, Maritza Perez, and we are here today with a woman who comes forward with a message to stop existing and start thriving. She is Jenny Calcoen. She is the CEO and founder of InnerEarthquake. Jenny believes that you can only go so long and so far by white knuckling your way through life doing the inner work. She is a recovering perfectionist who values and teaches radical honesty and integrity with self first and foremost. After a 26-year career in corporate in senior leadership, she now teaches coaches and mentors women to step into a bigger version of themselves. She doesn't always wear a cape, but she does have a couple of superpowers: deep listening and complete presence, which allow her to be a guide to her clients in a safe, dedicated space for experimenting, exploring, and experiencing a vibrant life. The transformation Jenny facilitates for women is to have a radically different relationship with themselves and the world around them, no matter what happens in life. Welcome, Jenny. It is a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
So, I have so many questions and I want to pick your brain in many areas. But before we start with that, I would like to start with my signature question. Jenny, what is your accent and why is not an accident?
Mhm. Yeah, it's an interesting question to ask because it's like I don't know where my accent comes from, right? I grew up mostly in Flemish and French, and I taught myself English because I was interested in music, and my parents also spoke German, so I was immersed in that from a young age. Um, and then I lived in different countries. And so really, I don't actually know where my accent is from, except that it is a collection of, what I grew up with and then where I lived subsequently as an adult. So that's the best way I know how to answer that question. And so it's no accident because I think it's normal that we pick up things wherever we go. We pick up ways of speaking. Um, even like I lived in England for a while, so I still words that people here in the US go, huh, what is that? For
Yeah.
example, in the UK, you say, I'll put you in my diary. And I said that here for at least the first 6 months that I lived here. And I'm sure many people wondered why I was writing in my diary about them, which just meant you're in my calendar. Um, so we pick up these things, right? And
Yes.
yeah, it's not an accident. Yeah.
And I love it because it comes from 22 years of traveling around the world and living in different places, living
Mm.
different cultures, and you absorb those cultures because you didn't stay only a few months on this place. You actually
Hmm.
created a life on them.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of cultures, which is beautiful.
Yeah. 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 I left, so I was born and raised in Belgium, and I left 30 years, literally 30 years ago this month. And I lived in different countries, and my husband is a foreigner as well, or was a foreigner. Um, so yeah, and I lived in places for years, not just a few months. So yeah,
Yes. So you had to emerge into the new culture and you were in that foreign person
yeah,
in different countries. So
yeah,
in every country you went, there was a different accent that you picked,
yes,
probably.
yeah. different language, usually a different currency, different ways of doing things, where you realize maybe you grow up with certain stories about how things are done, and then you live in a different country and people do things differently, and it's not even a question. You go, oh, okay, but that's just done differently in different countries. So it's how
Yeah.
you learn a lot.
Yes. You live in Madrid now too,
Yes, yes, I did. Yeah,
so you speak Spanish.
yes. Ujú.
Hablas bien, hablas muy bien español.
Pues gracias. Me encanta que lo dices.
Por favor, di mi nombre.
Maritza.
Ah, I love it. So, so for
Yeah.
those that don't know Spanish, the reason why I'm asking Jenny to say my name is because her accent in Spanish is from Spain, and the Z or Z has a specific accent, and the phonetic sound. And it's not like in my country, we say Maritza, say Maritza, and I love how it sounds.
Yeah.
I told you I was going to make you say my name. So, um, many of the things that I crossed my mind about the questions that I wanted to ask you today. The very first one is I love the name of the company, and I want to
Mm,
ask you why and how it came to be that name of the company.
mm. Yes, I named my company InnerEarthquake because I work with women who have gone through an inner earthquake. And the way I came up with that title, and I'm not saying that I invented it, but I came up with it because I was trying to explain what happens when we go through essentially an identity crisis. So whether we go through a divorce or an intentional or unintentional job change or menopause or empty nest, whatever the event is, it causes the same reaction on the inside. And it's a complete sense of the world being turned upside down, and who I was no exists. And now there's a new version of me emerging, and that can be very, very overwhelming and discombobulating. So inner earthquake seemed to describe that inner feeling the best. And most women, I'd say 95% of women that I speak to about inner earthquake go, oh, I know exactly what that is. Yeah. So,
Oh, that's beautiful.
mm,
That is beautiful. So when you experience like a breakdown, what we will call that, but it's not only just a breakdown for one day, it's just like when it feels like it's breaking inside of you. That's what you're calling the
yeah.
name.
And it'll literally feel like there was a way the world was before the event, and then there's the way the world is since that event. And you can't go back, and you can't go back to that former version of yourself. And so here you are, you're in that space where everything feels like, who am I? What's happening? What am I doing? What's next?
And then you have to rebuild.
Yeah, yeah. Or reconnecting, because we don't actually go away. We sometimes just put stuff on top of who we are, and then we just forget for a little while who we really are,
Mm.
underneath the masks or underneath the things, the expectations and the roles that other people assign to us. But in the end, it's just about reconnecting with yourself.
Yes, and it's beautiful. So you have different methods that you work with, and you are focusing basically on women that are in leadership roles.
Yes. So I work mainly with women who are philanthropists, founders, C-suite executives, and entrepreneurs. And that is not by coincidence, not an accident, because I was in corporate for 26 years and in senior leadership. And so I had a few of those inner earthquakes myself. So I know the environment very well.
So, what are the typical things that a woman in a leadership role today has to face that will kind of like impact herself, her femininity, and you know,
Mm.
her inner child, I could say.
Mm. Well, I think no matter what role we occupied, we all go through the same things in life. The big fallacy is that we should leave our problems or our issues or our challenges at home. And, we may tell ourselves that we do that, but that's just simply not possible. So, of course, when you're a corporate leader and you're going through, let's say, a divorce, for example, it's not something that you just leave at the door when you get to work or,
Yeah,
when you get to your desk. Um, and so the most common thing that people do, because it's what we are taught in society, is to just, like you were saying, like white knuckling it and powering through instead of actually feeling our feelings. And so what you do when you say, I can't, I don't have the time, I'm a person in leadership and people depend on me and I can't fall apart, that might be okay for a little while, but it's not healthy and it's not sustainable over the term. And so over the long term, I very often meet women leaders who are in burnout or who just, had some sort of breakdown that has required them maybe to even take time off of work because it was just the one drop, added to the bucket that everything fell apart.
yeah,
And so I try to help women, and in my case, in leadership, to not do that and build the resilience so that when the next curveball comes along in life, because that will happen,
that,
you can be okay, so you can be okay no matter what happens in life.
yes. And you know what? I'm going to put myself an example. I work for 20 years in corporate, a little less, probably 17, 18 years, and on different roles.
Mhm.
But there were times, like especially if you're going to through a divorce, when I was going through the divorce,
Yeah.
it's super difficult to stay because you have to balance your life, balance your house, your household, your children, then balance yourself, your feelings, the workplace,
Yeah.
and then on top of everything, go through the divorce anyway.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
remember it was super tough.
Mm.
It was very
Mm.
tough to deal, and you don't talk about it.
That's right.
You don't say anything because that's not work relevant.
Yeah. That's right.
So women in leadership, what are the different aspects from corporations that they can bring to women in leadership or leaders in general that can help their employees and their teams go through this?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I would say empathy and compassion go a long way. But, big B, but it has to start with yourself first. If you cannot bring empathy and compassion to yourself, you're not going to be able to extend it to other people either. So that is what I mean when I say, the powering through, it's just not sustainable and it's denying your feelings. That is about empathy and kindness and compassion for yourself. And so I think leaders have a big role to play in, be the change that you want to see, be the example. If you show that it's okay to have an off day. It's okay to be influenced by, whatever is going on in your life. That it is not something that you have to keep out of work or deny. That's the culture that you then create, right? Whether you can do it at a corporate level, that's amazing, but you can do that on a team level as well. So you have to start somewhere, and you start with yourself.
Yes. What are some of the consequences? Like if I'm in a leadership role, what are some of the consequences when you don't take care of yourself? That you could name a couple.
Yeah, I mean, we hear the word stress all the time, and it's not a joke. Like you just mentioned yourself. When women go through a divorce, they're not just going through the divorce. They're also, statistics show us that women are still responsible for 2/3 of the work that goes into making a family or household function, right? And so we call it invisible work or the second shift. And this is not to bash men, because we all live in that system. And so it's it's time to start changing those systems together, men and women together, so that we share more equitably. Because when a woman is stressed, you can be sure that she'll always still find extra time. Have you noticed how women's time is considered endless, limitless, right? It's like you can always find more. We'll just go to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning to finish everything. Men's time generally is sort of seen as, time is money, and men's time is seen as more to the value of diamonds, right? It's not endless, and it's not, like sand. It's like diamonds. And again, we all live in that system, and so it's up to all of us to make it an equitable system. So I would say stress is the big one. Stress that leads to overwhelm, that leads to burnout. Um, and yeah, that's something we all need to weather.
And that affects not only the workplace, but that also
Hmm.
affects the relationships
Yeah,
in the house and with the friends, because many times you isolate
yeah, yeah,
and
absolutely.
feeling tired all the time. What will be some of the things that you say if you say these symptoms in or these behaviors on yourself? Stop. This is kind of like a warning.
Yeah, I would say that statements like "I have no time" is a big warning, because when a woman says "I have," like, she's almost at the end of her tether. Because we always find more time, right? Like I said. The other thing is just literally never having time to yourself, um, to look after yourself. And I don't mean, we have made the term self-care mean, oh, you go for a massage or a money pedi. I don't mean that. I mean self-care, as in I am entitled to be interested in my own life. And very often, what we do when women become interested in their own life is we give them shame and guilt, right? So I always say, to get rid of shame and guilt, unless you've robbed a bank, or unless you've I don't know, shouted at someone in a parking lot because they took your parking space, and that's just not the person you want to be. That doesn't feel good, and that might not feel aligned with your values. But unless it's that, either of those cases, shame and guilt is really about how other people are uncomfortable with your actions.
Oh,
So yeah, that's a big one.
and this is very sad because I've seen it incorporated in many of the leaders that I work. There was some that will just take days off. There were others that will take it against anyone that crossed by.
Yeah, yeah.
So And then this happens to men as well.
Of
Um,
course, of
but
course.
I think that men hide it a little better, and I believe that we have allowed men to be a little more assertive than women. We are not allowed to be assertive,
Mm, mm.
and that's it. What is your opinion on that?
Well, like I said before, I think women are generally, let's say, their time is not considered equal, right? There's a reason why women still don't get paid the same as men do. There's a gap for white women. The gap is even bigger for Black women or women of color. It's abysmal. Um, so somehow we are not valuing women and women's time and women's work the same as we are men. And again, we all live in that system. This is not men bashing. Um, but in order to change, we will have to do it together. We will have to have men become our allies and advocate for us where we can't.
Men to become our partners, like
Yeah,
at work as well.
that's
Um,
right.
like
Yeah.
creating partnerships. Many
Mhm.
times, um, when I saw certain positions, um, I'm not talking like probably in management level, not executive level, but in management level, um, sometimes men will tend to think that the woman does not know enough. And there is like that division even in an office.
Yeah.
Um, and women have come together now. We didn't used to be together before. Now we're
Mhm.
more together. But if we all are working in one office, we are all working towards the same objective.
Mhm.
So I think it's also about company culture that has to
Of
be
course.
a little shift or a big shift in the company culture where everybody's equal.
Yes, absolutely. Agreed. It's a culture comes from the top down. And so if these are not values that are embraced, from the owners or executive leaders, it's hard to change. Because awareness is the first thing that needs to happen. And if there's no awareness of the challenges that might be happening in the organization, obviously it can be changed.
When somebody says, okay, I am starting to not feeling like I don't have enough time, that I'm working as many hours as I can be up,
Yeah.
uh, and not sleeping, if you start seeing that you withdraw from being social, um, which is a big part for women. Women need to be with
Yeah.
other women, and that I always kind of like encourage that. Um, and then what was the other one that you say? Take care of yourself.
Yeah. Self-care. Yeah.
Like, yeah, paying attention to yourself, reading a book, having the time to read a
Yeah.
book, being by yourself.
Because that is what women tend to do. There are two things that we tend to do. One thing is we eliminate when we have no time, when we're running out of time. We tend to eliminate what appear to be small things because we don't have the time. So that might be, having coffee with a friend or a phone call with a friend or going for a walk or going to the gym, whatever the thing is that gives you a breather in the day. The first thing we do is you get those things and go, oh, it's fine. I can do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow turns into next week and next month. And eliminating those seemingly small things is actually the thing that gives us oxygen. And so when you eliminate one small thing, seemingly small thing after another, you're really kind of going down the spiral and things just become worse because you have less and less time, you have less and less breathing space, sort of come up for air, and things get worse. And then the other thing I would say is around boundaries. So that's a big topic. But talk time boundaries. We are usually pretty good at setting boundaries around, okay, I need some time to do this or that. We're pretty good at identifying what needs to happen, the priorities, and setting boundaries. We're not always very good as women in communicating those boundaries, but we can definitely improve in that area. But where we fall down is to um, actually respect our own boundaries and enforce our boundaries. So, in other words, when you say, I'm going to take an hour to, whatever it is, read a book or go for a run, and you communicate that to everyone that needs to know, but then someone sticks their head around the door or they give you a call and they say, it's a really quick thing, really quick, just a few minutes. And you go, okay, what is it? What you're doing is you're not respecting your own boundary and you're
Hi, I'm very happy to know you are here watching our podcast today. It is an honor to be featuring so many entrepreneurs on the journeys of their inside voice, their accent that is not an accident. And we want to reach out more people like you who are creating a better world of diversity, inclusiveness, equity, and belonging. So please take a moment to hit the subscribe button below, like, and share to others. And even if you want to leave a comment, that'll be nice. Thank you for your support. And now back to the episode.
it's not just about setting boundaries. It's about respecting our boundaries so that other people will respect our boundaries.
Yes. So these ever since I'm gonna ask you a question and I'm putting myself an example. So ever since I started being an entrepreneur, which is this is my fourth year.
Hmm.
So in the beginning, I didn't have to work as many hours, but as you grow, you have to work a little more hours. Then last year or 2 years ago, I ended up in emergency room, in the emergency
Yeah,
room, and I ended up having a surgery. So it was my body telling me, stop.
yeah,
You're not taking time to yourself.
yeah,
You're overdoing it. I mean, the hours of the day are the hours of the day. The doctors told me everything.
yeah,
So I decided to make a change. And I said the first hours of the day, I wake up every morning at 5:30 in the morning. So I get up at that time, and between 5:30 and 6:30 is my daughter's time because I take her to school. Then whichever time, 6:45, let's say, I drop her off. And between that time to the time that I drive back home, I pray.
mm,
I decided to go to work out. Then I come back and I used to water the plants. If my mom is not with me, if my mom is with me, I let her water the plants, but then I watered the plants, and then when I notice, and what else? And I do 15-minute meditation every day. So and I get ready. And then very important to me, and you're gonna laugh about this, but very important to me, and I work from home, like many of us, with my purse. And I leave with my purse. And I close the office at the end of the day. To
yeah,
me, it's very important to feel like I'm leaving the office.
yeah,
It's, it's, it's in the house, but
yeah,
I'm going to work and I'm
yeah,
coming out of work.
yeah,
So I had to force myself to do these things.
yeah.
Yes, during the day, there are things that, like, we do the laundry because we work from home.
Hmm.
Um, but it's not like you're standing in front of the washer waiting for
Hmm.
it to finish. I have noticed that when I stopped doing one or two of these things, my energy levels
Yeah.
dropped down badly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one of the things, like somebody like me, that I force myself to change my habits, and now it's a habit. But what would you say, like, when when someone like me is saying, okay, I have all these habits, but I'm scratching this one and this one down because right now, how long is right now? For how
Mm-hmm.
long can we allow ourselves to say, okay, right now we have to change and shift priorities? How long would you say before it becomes not safe?
I mean, I think that's personal to everyone, but I think the key is the motivation. So if your motivation is literally like, today I'm not able to do, it's an exception, but I know why I'm doing it and I'm choosing it, and it's really an exception. Or when it becomes, oh, I really don't need that. I could really use the extra hour to do more work. I think that's the slippery slope. Because essentially what you're doing is you're not respecting yourself. You're not saying to yourself, I am important. I deserve to take care of myself. I deserve to, like I said, be interested in my own life. The cliche is, it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It's in the airplane, the instructions are put the mask on yourself first before you can help anyone. That is literally what you're doing. Um, Often my clients literally have to start with that idea of like, okay, if I want to be there for my children or for my family, I need to take care of myself first. And often they start with that motivation because they can't even motivate themselves to do it for themselves. Then as they remember how important they are and how powerful they are, that's when the switch happens. And that's where they sort of take note and go, I am important and I deserve this and I don't need to justify myself. It's okay for me to be in my life, right? So, yeah, and that's the long answer, but I think the short answer is it depends what the motivation is for postponing or canceling these
Yeah.
seemingly small things.
And sometimes, like for instance, if somebody travels a lot, obviously there is going to be a shift of
Of
a
course.
schedule, and there are things that are not going to be there, like the family is not there. So maybe you can work later during the day, or you can just go to sleep early. I
Yeah,
think I'll
yeah.
take the second one.
Yes. But I think it's like there's something important about doing things first thing in the day for yourself, because you're more at risk of sacrificing those things if you tend to do them at the end of the day. Because it's really easy to say, oh, I'm busy and I'm not in the thing and I'm in the zone and I want to finish that, and so I'll just let go of that rather than starting your day with it. And yeah, that's just a tip that I would say, take the time for yourself at the beginning of the day. And I know it's not easy, and I know that we live in a world where it's important that we're all sort of reachable, I guess, between 8 and 5 or something. So it's not easy. If you don't want to get up at 5 o'clock, I am not a person. I consider 5 o'clock in the morning to be the middle of the night. So it's challenging. It's challenging for me to go to an aquafit class at 9 o'clock in the morning because it kind of feels like, oh, I'm kind of like in the middle of my work day, and I still do it because I like it and I like how I feel afterwards, and I feel like I'm set up for the day, and so I still do it.
Yes, it is important. I can tell you that after I started doing the morning routine, and obviously I have to get up early because of my daughter's school, but Otherwise, when she doesn't have a school, I wake up at 7.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So, but those are like vacation time.
yes.
Uh, so but although during summer the vacation is longer, I get up a little earlier. I get up like at 6:30, not at 5:30, 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but going back to ever since I started like doing those 3, 4 things every morning, and
Mm.
sometimes I do the prayer, sometimes and then here and there I take myself to Starbucks,
Yeah.
and and I didn't do the workout, I didn't do the prayer, I didn't do the meditation. I just took myself to Starbucks and had a nice cup of
Yeah.
coffee. That's it. So, but ever since I started doing that, I realized that my energy levels were higher.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah.
creativity was better. My mood was excellent, and I was working faster even.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it actually, instead of me thinking, my goodness, but I cannot start at 10 a.m. every morning, doesn't matter because I'm working fast. I am
Yeah.
energized,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. And so that any stress that comes through, you battle it.
Mm-hmm. Preemptively, you're already resilient, so things are not quite as taxing. There's nothing more tiring than when you're already overwhelmed and stressed, and then you get more overwhelm and stress on your plate. Like there's just nowhere to go with it, right? Like you're already like at you're back against the wall, so to speak. So if you keep building that resilience, that reserve, so to speak, then when things come along, it's like, okay, this is a thing. I take a deep breath and I get on with it, right? And it doesn't take me out.
Okay, yes, and that is one of the things that you can do better. And also, I think create a culture around you that is a
Mm.
partnership
Yeah,
culture around you. If you are in a leadership role, then take the
right.
steps to make sure that your team members are also taking care of themselves, whether they are female or males.
Yeah, that's right.
Anything um, other than the the consequences? What happens throughout? Uh, let's say somebody had the earthquake. Then now, how can we get out of it?
Mm.
Like, give us a tip, one tip to get out.
Well, again, it's an individual
Right.
journey, and it depends what is going on. Um, the aware having the awareness that you're actually going through something big um, may seem very logical, but most people don't, or I should say, most women don't acknowledge that what they're going through is a big deal. So back to the self-compassion and kindness to self is it's okay to not feel great, to not be everybody's pillar for a little while. Um, it's okay if you have to cancel things um, just because you can't absorb anything more. So give yourself the great empathy that you would give somebody else. If you saw a girlfriend going through an inner earthquake, you would try to be there for her. You would say, "Hey, take it easy, it's okay to calm down. It's okay to not have a hectic work schedule right now, or it's okay, I can take your kids for a moment." So I think that's where it starts. It's the very, very first step is just to acknowledge, like, okay, there's this big thing going on, and then find help. Um, whether it's a therapist or somebody like me, who can walk alongside you as you start rebuilding what does this next chapter look like for me? And who am I in that space? And who do I want to be? And it can be terrifying and exciting at the same time, right? It's that space between no longer and not yet. And so you have all the feelings, and it's just really helpful if you have somebody who is in that space with you, who provides a safe space for you to reconnect with yourself, experiment in a non-judgmental environment. Sometimes that is friends, and sometimes that's the opposite of friends. It might be, a stranger, because, you don't necessarily need advice, well-meaning advice from friends and family. So yeah, it's the awareness. The awareness is the very first step. The awareness of this is something big, and reaching out for help. It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, exactly. So then now let me ask you, how does women of different backgrounds, like different cultures, different, like someone like me that is from Latin America, um, someone that is Afro-American, or probably Asian, how do we help these women leaders? Because I believe they are also in today's world, and this happens around the world. They face yet one more thing, and it's the cultural behavior that others have over them.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that we don't impose our worldviews on other people, right? Like that's good advice, I think, in general, um, because different cultures do things differently. Um, I think it's really important that we approach any relationship with curiosity and a beginner's mind, because I really don't know anything about your situation, whether you're in this country or another country. Could be other challenges. I really don't know anything. So I think bring your curiosity and not your judgment to any conversation, and then offer help if you feel that you can be of service to a sister. Ask her, how can I support you? How can I help you?
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. And so, also, I think that part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging is that we all have to get along. Like, like remember when our parents said, you have to get along with your brother or sisters. We have to apply that, but it's also what you're saying is so true. Come with a mind of curiosity.
Mhm.
Find out how this person is, what do they do, why they do it. Not
Mhm.
judging, but to learn. And then
Yeah.
you teach them the way you do things. And at the end, you will find out that the two parts are doing exactly the same thing.
Mhm. Yeah, I think listening feedback is important too. Like
Oh,
if we become aware of blind spots, which, we are human, and, we are part of this, this system that we live in. Um, Listening to feedback is really important. And I might have disadvantages as a woman in the world, in the corporate world, but I still have a lot of privilege. Speaking for myself, I have a lot of privilege in that I am a white woman. So how can I use the privilege that I have to amplify other voices of sisters and people who have been traditionally discriminated against? because if I don't use my voice to or my position, my privilege to amplify other voices, then I'm enabling the current system. And I definitely don't want to be a part of that. So, but that requires not just curiosity, but also listening and listening to feedback, and consider it with grace, because we've all grown up in these systems that we are in, and we have spots, and it's I'm happy for my blind spots to be pointed out.
And that is super interesting and very valuable, because we all are not perfect, and we might do or say things that are not politically correct, or that might impact somebody, but it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just, if you listen to the feedback, you probably will say, oh, I didn't mean it, but now you know that certain things cannot be said or done.
And then it's responsibility to go and educate myself about that, not ask people around me to educate me about that.
Exactly. Yes, very, very, very interesting. So we are getting to the end of the interview, and I still have so many questions, but I want to give you the opportunity to tell our audience how they can find you, how do you work with the people, and how and where they can find you. Yes.
Yeah, so I work only with women in one-on-one work, sometimes group work. I also go into organizations or teams to talk about strategy, or to talk about how individual well-being contributes to team well-being, and ultimately an organization or a company's bottom line. People can find me at my website, which is Jenny Calcoen, my name in one word.com, or they can find me on LinkedIn. Again, my name is unique enough so that they'll find me. I think those are probably the best two ways to get in touch.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jenny, for this today. I enjoy our conversation, and I hope we help many women today to put together a list and see which ones they check out. Jenny, do you want to leave the audience with the last thought?
Yeah, I would say, and this applies to everyone, it's really about trust yourself, because even when you think that you don't know, you do know. We've gotten used to sort of blowing past our amber or red flags, but we really know. So trust yourself is what I would leave you with.
That is beautiful. Thank you again, Jenny, for being with us today. And to our audience, remember that you came to this world because the greatest source, God, or whatever you believe in, brought you here with love, to be loved and love one another. Thank you, and until next time, bye.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Maritza here. If you like this episode of My Accent is No Accident podcast and would like to listen more like this, subscribe wherever you're listening to it or watching it. Leave us a nice review and share with your friends, family, and network. Thanks for listening.